My friends, as the news cycle goes, there is a lie. We all know it's a lie. It's easily debunked, but the media insists it's true, claims that the quote-unquote right is lying to you, and their claims are debunked, when in reality, the corporate press was lying the whole time. From the New York Times, testimony fleshes out account of Trump's demand to go to Capitol on J6. But a newly released transcript of an interview of the Secret Service agent who drove Donald Trump's vehicle that day disputes that he tried to grab the steering wheel or lunged another agent. Amazing, isn't it? What was that woman's name? Cassidy Hutchinson? Was that who that was? So she lies? Or she said, I heard this happened. They got hearsay in the January 6th committee. And my understanding is the vehicle that Trump was in has a barricade between the passenger's area and the driver's seat. So Trump was not physically able to phase, unless Trump has superpowers, and he might. But the argument would be that he phased through solid matter to grab the steering wheel.
Could be Tesla time travel.
That's right, time travel.
Don't forget that. It
was fake the whole time. We knew it was fake the whole time because the vehicle that drives Trump was the Beast. Doesn't have there's a barrier between the drivers and the passengers. It's the president's vehicle. It's secure, and they lied anyway. And when all of us, the right, the post-liberal, libertarian, said that's not true, all the corporate press said they're lying. It happened, and then they wait. How many? What is it? What is this now? 2 years later, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, that was all true. Like, it was fake. We made it up.
And this headline isn't like testimony contradicts testimony that this happened. It says flashes out, adds new details, like got some more insight on this thing that we claimed happened, but it turns out it doesn't. Like, they're not even admitting it out of the gate that they were completely wrong. Right. They want it to seem like, oh, we're learning new stuff, but nothing. The storyline hasn't changed. Our main premise is that he is bad, and we maintain that.
And real quick, sorry. The transcript was released by House investigators of another Secret Service agent who driving the car Trump wanted to go to the Capitol, but his lead agent, Robert Engel, said no, telling him there was no plan. They had this. The J6 committee, the House, they had this information. They knew the story was false. They are putting out fake information. And it's crazy because there are people who live in that fake reality. They believe it all the moment it comes out. But anyway, you were saying, sorry.
Well, to that point, I was at the Capitol today, the U.S. Capitol, and we went on a tour, and the tour guide, he looks us all dead in the eye, and he says, this is where the two cops who were killed on January 6th were late, or were late, were allowed to lay in state, right? And I didn't say anything to my fiance at the time, and he's like, you should have said something. I was like, I'll bite my tongue because I don't want to get into it, and it's just not the place for it. Maybe I should have. Maybe I was a coward on that, but he told. So everyone in that tour group now believes, because they've been told by the Capitol tour guide that two cops were killed on January 6th. They try and usually kind of mingle the language, because no cops died on January 6th, right? Brian Sicknick was natural causes, but that was the day after. Then there were suicides weeks and months after. Then they try and conflate all that. But he's still going with I know there was a congressman who recently did that, though, right? Who said there was at least one cop killed on January 6th. Right. And I forgot who was testifying against the congressman, but it was like...
They would have arrested you if you said anything.
Did you hear about the
misinformation?
the 7 cops who died in the fire on May 29th at the White House? Yeah. 7 cops died in a fire at the White House. Did you guys know that? Yeah. Because it's not true. I made it up. But if they're going to make things
up... Hey, how dare you question law enforcement?
Yeah.
That's
right.
rude. We have to... They're heroes. And the fact that you would dispute their death is just unethical.
Wait, Hannah Claire, does his story matter? Does it help the left get votes?
Well,
because if that's the case, then it's totally fine.
I can report this. A source close to the White House told me that law enforcement were killed on May 29th. Wow. The source that was close to the White House is a homeless guy who was in the alley covered in his own boogers, and he was ranting about, bacon falling from the sky. Mm-hmm. But I have to assume he was telling the truth because he was close to the White House.
No, that sounds legit.
I love how they do that, though. They've done that with Trump. A source close to the Trump administration said this, and I'm like, that could literally mean a burger guy standing outside the White House.
That's immediately what I thought.
Do you remember the familiar with Trump's thinking?
Yes. Yeah, they said sources familiar with Trump's thinking said he's likely thinking this. And it's like, what? We got psychics now in the press?
Yep.
Man, what are we doing here? What are you doing, Hannah Claire?
Well,
why aren't you developing psychic powers to report better?
I do, and Chris Carr is always like, you can't write about things that haven't happened yet. And I'm like, but it's breaking news, and Chris Carr is just trying to hold me back.
You're like, let me pre-write the story. It's going to happen in a week. No, we don't do pre-writes.
I've got other things to do today, so here are all of my predictions that will be completely true.
Tomorrow's news today.
Yeah, they're really against it. They're like, you can't pretend things have happened yet. I'm saying you're oppressing me as a psychic.
No, it's crazy.
The media legit reported sources familiar with Trump's thinking, and more than once.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's like
beautiful.
They're basically saying like, there's a guy, a lawyer, who knows how Trump thinks. Therefore, this story is true. And it's like, what?
It's like when Mary Trump, Trump's niece, comes out with stuff, and she'll be like, well, he's really upset the family. And we're like, girl, you wrote a book. Like, you think you get invited to Thanksgiving? I don't believe you know any. You're on the outs. And she'll be like, well, as our family is really this, that, and the other. And we're like, I just think you are not the source I believe. You have... If anyone in the Trump family tells this girl anything, they are delusional.
So I Google searched the phrase, who wants to read a good old Brian Stelter?
Oh.
You want it?
I don't have my glasses on.
Brian Stelter says, a source familiar with the president's thinking tells at Gloria Borger that Trump is pissed, flailing and upset more than ever. His anger is, quote, beyond what anyone can imagine.
A source familiar with the president's thinking. Yep. Familiar with his thinking.
Does Brian Stelter have the same job that he had when he tweeted that?
Look,
he does not.
Interesting.
In fact, he does not.
The only person I trust with that kind of phrase
Look at this,
has
there's
to
more.
be Melania Trump. And if she doesn't say it verbatim to me herself, I don't believe you.
She talks to Stelter.
Look at this. William Bill is from 2018. William Barr, a former attorney general under President H.W. Bush, is emerging as a consensus candidate to succeed Jeff Sessions as attorney general. Two sources familiar with President Trump's thinking tell CNN. Chadwick Moore said, sources familiar with Donald Trump's thinking is a new one. That's what they were predicating stories off of. Now, to be fair, Bill Barr did become, did succeed Jeff Sessions, but still.
Tim, I'm going to start telling people stuff, and I'll just like cite myself as a source familiar with Tim Pool's thinking. I'll just be like, this is his favorite restaurant. I'm a source familiar with Tim Pool's thinking.
Close to Tim Pool.
Yeah.
Well, no, the truth is, whenever I think things, like off the show, I'm just saying it all out loud. I don't think quietly. I'll walk in the room and I'll be like, it's cold. The lights are off. Let me turn the lights on. No, the lights are a little too bright. I'll turn them down. You know what? I'm thirsty. I'm now walking over to the fridge to get a drink.
A source
better turn the
familiar
monitor
with Tim
on.
Pool's thinking says he's coming down with pneumonia. He's feeling cold and chills, and he is constantly thirsty. He has a medical crisis awaiting him.
I just narrate every step of my life all the time.
Tim Pool's life is all exposition.
I mean, that's why people love playing poker against me, because I'm sitting there and I look down, I'm like, I have ace jack suited and I'm in the cutoff. That means I should make a bet because I'm opening. Okay, no one bet. Okay, now I'll bet. And they're like, he's just telling me what he's doing. Man. Well, that's just it. They're all familiar with my thinking.
But what's crazy,
that's what Trump does.
The fact that your tour said that the cops were killed goes back to what Tim was saying just before that about how we're in different realities. Like, I believe we're interdimensional species now because of things like that, where people believe that story now, and then they spread that story. And if someone tells them otherwise, how dare you even question it? Because the person at the Capitol told me the fact. Why would they lie to me?
A source familiar with Shane Cashman's thinking says that he is making stuff up on the spot.
That source is probably
he thinks
a
he can get rich
sick
that way.
And what burns my hide the most, I know a lot of this isn't dealing with sensitive, top secret material, but oftentimes it does, right? There's a lot of intel leaks and stuff that they know is half baked, isn't maybe true. Steele dossier, they couldn't pay them. You know, they said, we'll give you $1 million if you can like authenticate your dossier. Couldn't. Well, we're going to run with it anyway. But what burns my hide is that's how DC works, right? And that's how the news works, is that you cultivate your sources, and people who want something to become true, well, they'll start to leak to the media in a certain way in which they want it reported on. And then so you get all the sources say, this person says, but then what did they do to someone like the Discord leaker guy, the airman, or not he was National Guard, I believe, right? Up to 16 years he could be sentenced for because he did not release in the way they wanted to, because he did it to his buddies, and the stuff that he released online to his gaming buddies undermined everything the U.S. government was trying to say. But if he had done the laundering information through the Washington Post, a bunch of lies with sensitive, top secret information about the war, but done the way in which they wanted him to, national hero, he gets all the top journalism awards.
Did your tour bring up Ashley Babbitt?
No.
Did they even
I believe there's reason
hint at
for
it?
it?
Did they hint at it?
Okay, we're all going on this tour. Secret cameras. Let's go.
That's
Man,
crazy. That is really interesting. But this is why I question history. Like, when I got into a fight with some historians in Georgia writing the last book for Inverted World, because they believe they believe in certain facts because the government said it. I'm like, but that was a dying government. Why would you even believe them?
I got into a fight with Kara Cooney. I call her like I don't know. She's like my evil twin almost. She's not that. Oh, maybe. But
She's like your mirror twin.
Growing up, I wanted to be an Egyptologist. I wanted to become an Egyptologist, learn Arabic, go to UCLA, and do the whole deal. My whole room is still ancient Egyptian theme. It looks like a museum, right? And so I bought her books. I know she's feminist and liberal leaning, but I figured her works would be more academic, hopefully, with maybe a little spattering of her politics in there. I buy her book. It's her book, I think, Good Kings or Good Pharaohs, something along those lines. And I read it, and at the end, I mean, the whole thing was trash, right? She just destroys the history of ancient Egypt, and basically all the pharaohs are misogynistic, evil. It's weird. I don't know.
Right.
They're going after ancient Egypt maybe because it was a lot of white Europeans in the 1800s who made Egyptology a field, and so now to go against the white man, they're going after ancient Egyptians.
Yep.
But the end was most important because she writes, and this is a year after the Kyle Rittenhouse incident. She writes that he killed 2 black men, shot 3 black men, in pursuit of his glorious white race war that he had inherited. And Nat Geo printed it. And so I went after her on Twitter, and a bunch of people picked it up saying, Kyle, add this to your list of who to sue, because this is egregious. It's not like the thing had just happened where, well, even then from the beginning we knew. And so I went after her, and then I said, now that casts doubt on everything about your history you're talking about. And there's not a lot of primaries. The pharaohs did not write diaries.
Right.
And she's like, well, and she didn't really have an answer for that.
They just make
Fake
it up.
news. Yeah.
Historians always like to place modern feelings onto the past that they supposedly study.
That's not they're doing that with that Roman emperor, right? Where they're like, actually, he was gay and possibly trans.
Nero?
It's not Nero,
but
there's
they've
a
done
different
everything.
one. This is what bothers me though. I mean, sources told me
Beethoven was black.
well,
Yeah.
Remember that one?
No, but that
You don't
sounds
remember
right
that
now.
one? Dude,
sources
that was a big
familiar
one.
with Beethoven's thinking believe he identified as an African American, but
Beethoven was actually Rachel Dolezal.
Here you go. From The Guardian, Beethoven was black, why the radical idea still has power today.
Wow.
He helped galvanize the U.S. civil rights movement,
That's
and
cool.
today sparks intense debate about cultural dominance and the musical canon. In his 250th anniversary year, can we listen to Beethoven and what he represents with fresh ears?
I'm gonna start saying people are white.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like they were pretending, but they're actually
Well,
white.
You should. I mean, Abraham Lincoln we know is black.
No, he's
Come
white.
on. No, you haven't read that
Who's the
history
founder
book?
of BLM? That guy,
Abraham
Sean King,
Lincoln.
isn't he white?
Yeah, and Muslim now.
Oh, interesting. I mean, look, white people are hiding in plain sight. They're among us.
Well, good for Beethoven.
Yeah,
But they've done this with a lot of historical figures.
Yeah.
I like that it tells you the article's 3 years old because that's like this is the old narrative. Now there's a new one coming out. I'm sure it's emerging.
I mean, that's
Right.
cool.
The Guardian starts alerting you at like 5
yeah.
months. They'll be like, "This is like
I think even more than that. I think a month.
Really?
It'll say like this is a month old. I mean, that's pretty good. I like that they do that.
That is fair, yeah.
I like it, especially when you're looking at like court cases and stuff, because there are updates all the time, and sometimes
Right.
it's just like slightly a grind. Sorry.
Do you think part of it is that, they take the obvious and then they twist it? And do you think part of the rationale is so that we never trust our own eyes and ears? Because what does the right usually say is, oh, are you going to trust the left telling you something or your own lying eyes and ears? And that's the joke, right? Because what you see is probably a lot more true than what some guy over there is trying to tell you to believe about what you're actually seeing and experiencing. So I wonder if all these kind of articles, if another layer to them is the idea that, see, you can't trust anything you think you know, anything you think you see, trust us because we will tell you. And anything you believe today can become a canceled position tomorrow, and you could lose everything. So be careful and listen only to us.
Yeah.
Sources familiar with Kara say she's exhibiting intense paranoia and she's
All right,
delusional.
guys. How do you think Snopes rated the claim? Was Beethoven black?
Oh, they're gonna say
They're gonna say it's credible.
they're gonna say it's gonna be half and half. They're still out on it.
Not rated. There's
They
no
won't
official
weigh in.
rating.
I love it.
Yo, it's very obvious. The answer is false. He was not. While some people have made wild 100 years after his death, a man speculated he may have been mixed race. That is nowhere near any kind of historical significance as to the claim that he's black, when all images of him, paintings mostly, show him as a white man. The argument is that the white heteronormative patriarchal system could not allow Beethoven to be black, so they drew him white.
That's ridiculous.
But that makes more sense than the fact that maybe he was just white. Like,
Right.
What
Like-
are the odds?
Their conspiracy would argue that there were people who were like, well, publicly everyone can know, and we all know he's black, but for history's sake, we can't do that. Like, they were willing to not be racist in person, but historically, for the sake of record, had to be racist is a ridiculous story.
So in
to
100
claim.
years, they'll whitewash Kanye. He was white.
No, yes.
This whole time, he was white.
Yep.
He couldn't have been black. Like, that's crazy.
Yep. And then when they draw pictures of like Sean King, he's gonna be real dark.
Yeah.
For real.
They'll say he's Malcolm X. They'll just be like, this picture of Malcolm X is actually Sean
I
King.
already converted to Islam. Is that true?
Yeah, supposedly. But who knows? You can't believe anything.
I said it's a true. I said yeah, supposedly, but who knows?
I thought I saw the ceremony though, unless it's a AI
Exactly.
video.
That's why you can't. You can't believe anything on the internet, but people were
when
tweeting
people
it.
like convert to stuff, I feel like sometimes you want to be like, you're posting about this very publicly. That makes me skeptical of it. Not to question his faith, but you know what I mean? Like
I didn't see
when
anything
you're
from
doing
him
it for the
yet.
optics versus like you come out as having converted a long time ago. I don't know.
Right.
Well, we don't actually, because it's Ramadan, I'm going to correct you. You actually revert to Islam. You revert to becoming Muslim because everyone's natural state is being Islam. So
I fundamentally disagree, but you also told me I can't wear a hijab on the show, so I don't trust anything you say. Sources close to Serge over here know that he's a fraud.
You got it all wrong. Serge was telling me he wants the women to wear hijab. He's upset.
I asked you specifically if I could wear a hijab on the show, and you're always sketchy about it.
I mean, I prefer the niqab personally, but you know, I'm someone more conservative
Yeah,
than me. They like
Serge
the burqa,
came to me and
but-
was like, "Why are the women uncovered?" And then he showed me this picture of a candy wrapped, and then a candy that was open with flies all around. And he was like, "Do you understand now?" I was like,
Wow.
Have you ever seen that billboard?
Amazing. No.
There's you Serge seen it? There's a billboard where it shows a piece of candy with like sparkles, and then next to it is a piece of candy that's open and it has flies all over it, and it was like hijab, no hijab.
Wow.
God, men are such flies, dude. Wow.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.